And when the information which I had in that visitations of the places and seeing things as a holographical view, not as a geometrical way as we see in three-dimensional way, my participation could be so strangely angled that I could see it in a racos differently, as if from the nowhere in the place comes something and appears that that's me, but nobody can see me, nobody can communicate with me, but I am there. I am participant of event without participating tangibly, physically. But I can feel it, they can't. I can feel, I can smell, I can see, I can hear, and also I can sense what they are thinking. But it's not only sense, I can see it, and not only as a picture, as a sense itself.
And it started very early in my infancy. I could take several hours, obviously, to describe what my life was like up until that point that brought me to this place. But the most important aspects of that life review, I believe, had to do with my relationship with my dad. Or perhaps my non-relationship, if you will.
After a while it became very evident that's all they were interested in was how I had interacted with other people. And to put it in a word, compassion. They only had one criteria for evaluating my life, and that was whether I had been compassionate or not compassionate towards other people. So things started off pretty good as a kid, and then they, becoming a teenager and then becoming a young adult and stuff, things got worse because it became less compassionate and more manipulative and self-centered. So it became, it was very disturbing to watch my life, especially because they were sharing with me their evaluation of how I was doing. So as I became less compassionate, they shared their displeasure and unhappiness with my life. And one would occasionally see me do something kind. They would get very happy, but there were getting to be too few of those occasions of happiness and way too much of the displeasure. The only thing that made this at all bearable was the fact that throughout it all, I knew that they loved me.
I could be anywhere I wanted, and I could see anything I wanted. I could go to any era, any time, any geological, biological, or historical time of humankind. And there is no other bigger reason for us to be on this earth than to live.
And then there was another transition. And in that transition, I was suddenly in this beautiful garden setting. And in this garden setting in front of me was this beautiful spiritual being, this beautiful woman, very radiant woman, filled with radiant energy and light. And I realized that this beautiful woman, who became known to me as the Lady of Light, it was a sense of knowingness. I knew her as the Lady of Light. She began to show me a different life for me. At first, what I perceived was to be my future life.
So they invited me to ask any question I wanted to ask them, and everything they answered was very clear, very straightforward. Their teaching style was to not just explain verbally, but also show you. So I don't know, I don't think we ever went anywhere. Maybe we did. It's impossible to tell because, like, I'd ask a question about the future and would be in the future. And I think they just like created the future around us. I don't know if we went I have no way of knowing. I would ask a question about like the Holocaust and we were in the Holocaust.
Anyway, and that's what I understood immediately when I thought there is no death, there is life. It continues, it goes into another dimension, it becomes something else. It's not necessarily recycles and comes back, but anything is possible.
And in the next transition, I was in this magnificent building, and it seemed like a building that would have been in ancient Egypt. Just a magnificent building of marble, and the Lady of Light was standing across a large globe of planet Earth that was positioned on this marble floor. And she began to point to planet Earth, to this globe. And as she did so, I would see flash points of light breaking out in the Middle East, and then flash points in Italy and Northern Africa, and then the flash points began to break out all through the Far East, through Russia and through China, and further east. All over the Far East, these flash points of light were breaking out. And at the same time as she was speaking to me, I was also seeing these clips or these visions that were like newsreel events. And these were events that were to take place in the future.
I wanted to go on. I wanted to go on to heaven. I wanted to go on to experience the wonders and the joys and the beauty of heaven. And ultimately I wanted to go on and to meet God at the very core of heaven. And they said no.
I never wanted to come back to my body. I saw it and I was sorry for my body. I was very thin and I was very, it was very unattractive view. I mean, dark green color into another color. I mean, I looked horrible. And I thought, I mean, how could I live in this junk? But then I had feeling that everything was important, even body.
And when this experience was over, all of a sudden I found myself floating back down into my body. And indeed, at this point, my body was laying next to the wall, and there was an EMT unit trying to revive me.
I was back in the bed, in that body, just filled with pain, with my wife next to me crying.
I'm saying that we have reason, and if we follow that reason, we achieve it. Kingdom of God on earth, to be with God here, to discover that our body, our mind, and our spirit in harmony can do miracles. And all this I understood during that 3 days.
And when I came to later on, the first thing I realized was that a miracle happened during that second experience. You see, that gnawing feeling that I had inside from the time I was 5 years old, it was suddenly gone. That gnawing feeling, that compulsion to drink, that alcoholism, the act of alcoholism that was part of me, was miraculously taken away during that experience.
The difficult thing about it has been, it's not a question about whether people believe my experience or not. I don't really care one way or the other. I mean, it really doesn't matter to me, because like I had my experience, it was real, and whether someone believes it or not, you know, that's up to them. It really doesn't contribute or detract from my life one bit. What I do want people to know about is the reality of God and Jesus Christ. That matters to me a great deal. And I live to evangelize. I live to spread the good news of Jesus Christ. That's what I live for.